In the distant past in the New World, only a good fight and great courage were valued. This was a world full of violence, murder, and thievery. Some tribes were stronger than others, so they showed their ruthlessness and strength every day. At the very mention of their name, blood would freeze in veins and men would cower. As the world ages, legends from this time begin to fade and are only kept alive by teaching them from one generation to the next. Doing business in the southern plains could, and frequently did, descend into horrible bloodshed. It was not unheard of for an adventurous, overly hopeful merchant to set out to these areas in the hopes of establishing trade with the rulers of this harsh, unrelenting territory, the Comanche. Many of these traders were never seen again. Some returned wealthy men, while others returned as traumatized Comanche victims. Comanche, like the Spanish to the south, were determined to seize as much of the vast open spaces of the American border as possible. Despite their reputation as warfighters and empire builders, they were also amazing traders. Of course, the threat of death is a potent negotiating chip, but the Comanche prided themselves on being skilled negotiators who could barter for the goods they sought. After Governor Juan Bautista de Anza secured a peace treaty with the Comanche in 1778, commerce between the Spanish descendant settlers of New Spain and the Comanche began in reality. Soon, a regular commerce system was created, with intemperate bands of traders venturing out into the no man's land that was Comancheria. The majority were males from low-income families who had limited other options. Many people passed away horribly at the hands of the Comanche or other tribes such as the Apache or the Kiowa. Many people were robbed or slain. Because of their penchant and talent for dealing with a tribe whose mere name could send waves of dread through villages all throughout Texas and Mexico, they were known as Comanche Heroes. When they set their course of travel southward, they saw a man on horseback. Even from a distance, he did not appear to be a Comanche. As the rider approached, he attempted to engage them in conversation by waving them down. It became clear that he was an American. In reality, though the Comancheros had no idea, this was one of the most well-known and traveled Americans living at the time. With a few exceptions, this lone rider had seen more of North America than anyone alive at the time. He'd come from upstate New York, worked on cargo ships that traveled the Great Lakes, and made his way to the thriving metropolis of St. Louis. He had journeyed from the Dakotas through the Rocky Mountains, the Mojave Desert, Southern California, the San Joaquin Valley, Sierra Nevadas, San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, and then all the way north through present-day Oregon and Washington into Canada. He had just escaped a terrible mauling by a furious grizzly bear, one that required his ear to be sewed back onto his skull by a primitive frontier surgery without anesthesia. This encounter left him severely scarred, and he began wearing his hair longer to cover the scars. He had been held by Mexican officials in California who were suspicious of his intentions in their bountiful area. Throughout it all, he stayed strong in his Methodist religion and his ardent dedication to the venture capitalism that he anticipated would provide for his family. His name was Jedediah Strong Smith. He wanted more trips. He wanted to see everything. He agreed to join an expedition to Santa Fe, led by William Sublett and David Jackson. The three men would lead a wagon train carrying approximately $20,000 in goods to Santa Fe. The path from St. Louis to Santa Fe was extensively trafficked and considered well established and relatively secure even in 1831. With the goal of completing a timely and successful journey, they set out for the southwest. and everything seemed to be going smoothly at first. Then, the party started having problems. First, on May 19th, a company clerk, whose name was Mentor, was slain by Pawnee warriors after wandering from the main group near the Pawnee River, a branch of the Arkansas River. The water then began to run out. By May 27th, both men and animals were entirely out of water. All of the trail's established water sources had run dry. They split into groups to find water sources. Smith and Fitzpatrick went even further south for several miles in search of water. They then encountered the Comanche Heroes tribe. They didn't want anything to do with him, so they warned him that the Comanche were close and that he could lose his life if he continued to search for the spring of water in their territory. Jedediah Smith kept going in the direction of the spring that the Comanche Heroes had told him about. He was determined to make his way forward with all the daring and foresight he could manage. Without water, he and his crew would undoubtedly die. And while he was well aware that the Comanche might offer him a faster demise, Smith didn't see any other option. A band of 15 to 20 Comanches ambushed him just before he reached the spring. They had noticed Smith before he had even left the Comanche Hero party and had hatched a plan to ambush him. They saw him as a threat, as someone who was leading a group of people who wanted to take their land. He tried to stay calm while they surrounded him. He had never met such a tribe before, on whose faces he could see a desire for revenge and blood. The two parties stared at each other quietly. The Comanche then encircled Smith, moving into positions while teasing Smith's horse, attempting to frighten it into tossing its rider. Smith, for his part, was still trying to strike a deal that would allow him to exchange some of his assets for safe passage back to his party. However, as the scenario progressed, it became evident that the Comanche were not interested in any bargain. A shot rang out from a Comanche rifle. A lead ball pierced Jedediah Smith's right shoulder, and the noise startled the horse, forcing both the animal and him to turn wildly. After being hit, Jedediah Smith took his rifle and fatally shot one of his attackers. It turned out to be the chief of the Comanche tribe. After that, they knocked him off his horse and stuck a spear between his ribs. His body was never found. All that remains is the hallowed death tale of Jedediah Strong. If you like this video and want more content like this, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for watching.